It's just what you want. It's just what you want. It's just
not absentee, but we collectively are here to prepare a generation for elevation. We are not just fathers, you can call us dad. Dads that have the role of training, the task of reigning, the mission as kings in our kingdom, working to bring them, the children, to a place of uplifting, encouraging, strengthening, educating, demonstrating the right way to work and to play. We are fathers, we are dads, doing it because of love, because the job had to be done for our daughters and our sons. Mistakes and flaws, missing applause, we do what we do. Fathers, let us encourage you.
It's just what you want. It's just what you want.
Hello there. My name is Daryl Brown Jr., and I am the founding senior pastor of Kingdom Builders Christian Center here in Omaha, Nebraska. Have been now since 2009. And I am, in addition to that, I am also a part-time salesman for one of the local, well, not local, but for one of the phone companies here in the city. And in addition to that, I also get the opportunity to say that I am now an author of a book called Salvation from the Slump. It is a book that tells the story of how the prophet Elijah overcame depression, as well as tells my own story of how I overcame depression as well. I go very transparent in the book about my own story, my own battles with depression. So it just came out last month and it's doing very well. Very pleased with how it's doing, reaching people near and far. So I'm excited about that. And in addition to that, my biggest accomplishment is that I get the opportunity to say I'm a dad. And my son is 13, soon to be 14 here in just a week and a half. And he's my pride and joy. He's the reason I get up every morning. I met my son's mom back when I was 15 years old. My cousin and I are only 4 days apart, and our children, ironically, are only a week apart too. We had a joint hotel party together for our 15th birthday, and she invited her friends, and I invited my couple of friends, and the room was full of her Benson Bunny friends, including my son's mother. I did not know her prior to that. I was very interested, believe it or not, because I'm so shy now, was very interested in being the center of attention at the time. And so I made sure that I danced my way around the entire room with almost all of the young ladies that were in the room. There's a couple in the room that they just didn't need to be danced with. But we had a great time. But when I came and tried to dance with my son's mother, she kind of giggled and tensed up like, no, don't dance with me, stop. And so I was like, oh, she's innocent. I like this little innocent thing here. And from there, we exchanged numbers and we started talking and eventually ended up dating shortly thereafter. We dated for about a year. And after dating for about a year, we broke up because it just seemed like we were not on the same page as far as our goals and drive for what we wanted and the direction we wanted our lives to go. Yeah, I know we were only teenagers, but it just kind of seemed apparent at that time. It wasn't that she lacked any intelligence or anything like that, but she seemingly lacked the motivation at that time to do what needed to be done in school. And even her mother at times would kind of ask me to get on her neck. And I'm like, I just don't think this is for me. And we later found out that she had some wrestling matches with attention deficit disorder. And so that contributed. And so she ended up leaving traditional high school and going to an alternative school and finished her, got her diploma that way, which, I mean, that was great for her. And it was in the process of her going to the alternative school that we crossed paths again and started back talking. And to me, I had seen a motivation with her that I wasn't familiar with. And so I was impressed, and it seemed like I had my good girl back. What I didn't realize at the time is that we still were headed in two different directions in many ways. So we dated from the time, that second time, from the time we were 17 up until we graduated high school and so on and so forth. I graduated high school from the elite Creighton Preparatory High School here in Omaha, Nebraska, which is responsible for, of course, most of the lawyers and doctors here in the city. And so I was blessed to be able to attend there and left Creighton Prep with a full ride scholarship to Creighton University. Everything was paid for, with the exception of books. My dorm was paid for, 3 meals a day were paid for. Everything was glitz and glam, but I was just too in love to be on campus. So this paragraph looks really full. This paragraph is so-so. This one needs some more work though.
Okay.
You gotta add to it. Did you get your math done?
Yes.
Did you really get your math done?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I literally only stayed on dorm for probably 2 to 3 nights out of that whole first semester, because I was too busy playing house. And so, of course, you know what happens when you play house too long. You wind up with a child. And so she got pregnant, and she got pregnant back in 2003. And had our son. And from there, I've been preaching since the age of 15. And so, as tradition would have it, that's what you do. You get married, you have children, and you continue to elevate within the ministry, if you will. At least that's what that was the example that had been set for me. And so, after having a child, and we were not married, 6 months after he was born, and after being reprimanded by the good deacons at the church, that Friday I ran down to the courthouse and got married, and completely ignored, completely ignored the signs that had been afforded to me prior to doing that perhaps we were not fit for one another. But in my mind, I could fix anything. I was able to fix it all. And we stayed married for probably we stayed married for 5 years. Out of the 5 years, we were only together 3. The divorce took a whole year. And when she left, even prior to the divorce, single fatherhood was in my lap. It was in my lap, without me asking for it, without me expecting it. I was completely unprepared for it, in the sense that I had not wrapped my mind around the fact that I would potentially be raising a child or children by myself. We got into a bad argument. It was October of 2008, I believe it was. no, October 2007, perhaps. We got into a bad argument, and she said she was going to go stay at her cousin's for the weekend and let things cool off, and she'll come back after the weekend. And so the weekend, it just never did quite end because she's never come back. And at the time we were doing foster care, and we had one foster son as well as our biological child. Our foster son at the time was 13 or 14, probably 14. And he since has been murdered and killed. He's dead now. And so I was left with a teenager and my biological son, who at the time was about 4 years old. And it wasn't that she didn't make contact, it wasn't none of that, but she was not there. And I had to figure out how to do this thing on my own. What I didn't realize is that in my mind, there was a lot that I already was doing anyway. I just needed to maintain my routine of what I had been doing. Of course, it did impact my social life. It did impact my ability to maintain some of my ministerial duties. It did impact, for me, probably one of the hardest hits that it took on me was the impact that it had on the image that I was trying to brand. And if you're a pastor or you're in ministry or you're in leadership, you can relate to trying to create this image of I have it together. Things are okay. Things are doing well. Because in your mind, you're saying, I need to be the example. I need to set the tone for other people. They need to have somebody that they can look up to. And I felt like I had failed in that arena because I no longer had a wife. I no longer had a right hand to stand there with me. And so I then had to move into the role of single father, and it just was new. It was fresh. It was mind-blowing. Now, the good thing about single fatherhood in my case, though, is I had a large support system. My parents were always present and accounted for at the drop of a dime. As a matter of fact, for 2 years straight during the school year, because my mother was so adamant about the school that she wanted my son to go to, and at the time I didn't have reliable transportation, he would be at her house completely during the school week. And I would come and get him after school and then be sure that he made it back before it was time to go to bed and get ready for school. And so it was very helpful to have that kind of support system. But I kind of got to a place where I was feeling like I was doing less than what I needed to be doing. And I didn't want anyone to say that they raised my son. Bag was not packed. Whose cleats is these on the stairs? Are these yours from last year?
What?
These cleats.
No, them is the ones that the coach had gave me this year, but I went to go get some.
He gave you some cleats?
Yes.
And you still have my granny buy you some cleats?
No, I can't fit those.
Got it. You tried it. Who are you recording? You childish. Oh, you're so childish. Yeah, I need cameras in here all day, every day. Our reality show would be shit popping.
My gloves in the car.
In the dryer, what did you think was going to happen? Somebody's going to put them up for you?
No, I just...
Get clothes off the dryer, put them in your room, put them up.
All right.
Thank you, sir. And so had gotten on my feet well enough that I had my own reliable transportation, had made decisions for myself of where I wanted my son to go to school, and just began our own routine of how we would do things. And to this day, he's my mini-me. He's my twin. And I don't just mean that in appearance. He is my twin. He has a mouth like me. He is witty like me. He's sarcastic like me. He is intelligent. He is quite the social butterfly. And he makes me proud. He does. The struggle for me, though, has been in the moments that I've had to be that stark disciplinarian. You remember all of those stories about your mother saying things like, me having to punish you is hurting me just as much as it's hurting you. I didn't believe that stuff when I was a kid. It does not hurt you like it hurts me. Because I am sitting over here in pain from the whooping that you just gave me. And you're not in pain. You didn't have to endure a whooping. You didn't have to deal with that. You didn't have your phone taken away. You didn't have your outdoor privileges taken away. This doesn't affect you the way that it affects me. But now in my adulthood and as a parent, now I get what they meant. Because it pains me to have to hurt my child's feelings all in the name of love. It pains me to feel like I have to be the bad guy, if you will. Because if I don't do it, who will? I have to do it. My son's mother is involved in his life, but he lives primarily with me. He spends more time with her in the summer than he does during the school year. Just because I personally am really big on education. I want to be sure that X, Y, and Z takes place in a timely fashion, an orderly fashion, and I come from an academically driven family that school is very important, and you don't have an option about achieving well when it comes to academics. So I want to be sure that that is passed on to my son, that he understands that even if I do not go to a 4-year college, that I at least go and get a trade, or I at least go and get certified in something that makes me marketable in whatever career field I want to go into. And so it makes it difficult, because when you're doing all of that by yourself, when you are contacting teachers and you're talking to administrators and you are speaking with the principal and you're showing up when they call because there's a disciplinary issue, when you are responsible to be sure that the hair gets done and or gets cut. He's got dreads like me, so he needs to line up and the dreads retwisted. When you've got to be responsible for that, you've got to be sure that school clothes get purchased. You've got to be sure that extracurricular activities are paid for and transportation to and from those extracurricular activities is taken care of. When you have to oversee friendships and interactions with different friends, and now that he's a teenager, when you have to oversee interactions with young ladies, it is quite a task that I don't know for sure that I feel so prepared for at all times. There are many nights that I go to bed wondering, did I do this fatherhood thing right? When I have had to enforce a particular punishment, when I've had to be stern in my conversation, when I've had to give out lists of responsibilities that need to be taken care of, when I have to have these heart-to-heart conversations and I'm wondering, did I share all the right stuff? Did I say it right? Did I communicate it the way it needs to be communicated? I don't want to damage my son as a man. My parents divorced when I was 11, and it was one of the most gut-wrenching experiences of my life because I felt like somebody stripped me of my family. And my father worked 2 full-time jobs to make ends meet. He did that when he was in the marriage, and he certainly did it after the marriage to be sure that he could pay child support and things of that sort and still live. And my brother and sister were much younger than me, so they got to experience him more than I did. And what I missed out on with my father really impacted me. And I didn't want my son to miss out on any part of his dad. I wanted him to have a dad that was present, a dad that could be the disciplinarian as well as be the nurturer. I didn't want to be the stark individual that only showed up when things were going wrong. I wanted to be there and show him that we can have a good time together, but when it's time for business, it's time for business. So we travel a lot together. We go do fun things a lot together. But when it's time to lay down the law, it's time to lay down the law. Because that's what fatherhood is about. And I think that the difference between single fatherhood and just fatherhood in general is that you don't get to take a break per se. You've got to keep doing it. You don't get the break. You got to just do it.
Dad! The books is here.
What books?
Your books.
My books?
Yes, your books.
Let's open.
Yeah.
You know you're excited when you open them with a butcher knife instead of with a...
Yeah.
They are here. Are you gonna start to me? We're horrible. That's been what's helped me through all this. You just do it. I don't have to be angry about what my ex-wife does or does not do. I don't have to be mad about this or that. I just take on the responsibility that falls in my lap and I just do it. And that's what you have to do. You just do it. So I encourage all of the single fathers that perhaps are struggling with communication with your children's mother, that are angry, bitter with your children's mother, whatever the case may be. My advice to you is to determine, first of all, whether or not some of the conversations even need to be had. And then secondly, conduct yourself in a calm and reasonable manner, because nothing's going to get done talking from a bitter and angry and frustrated place. So try to make that communication work as smooth as possible. And when things fall in your lap that seem overwhelming, just do it. Just do it. There's good dads out there. Good dads, whether they're in a relationship or by themselves, single dadding it. I'm single dadding it. You can too. So just do it. Hashtag doing the right thing. You said what? You said what? You said what? You tickle. What's your name? What's your name? What you doing? Where you going? Where you going? You tickle. Tickle, tickle. Where you going? You're spinning somewhere. Where are you going? I'm fat and tired. Woo! You look tired, son. Woo! I'm worn out.
Pastor Darrell Brown Jr. is the proud founding senior pastor of Kingdom Builders Christian Center of Omaha, Nebraska. He is an author and a playwright of several stage plays. He is committed to the wellness and the healing of total person, mind, body, heart, and spirit. His passion is to see people seek after and walk into the best version of themselves using relevant methods and principles concerning ministry. This will be one of the best purchases you ever make. I encourage you to make sure you go out today or even go on social media and order this book. This book will definitely be a lifesaver. So, go ahead, purchase, take all the information on the screen, and make sure you get your purchase of Salvation from the Slump, Overcoming the Emotional, Mental, and Spiritual Slump by Pastor Darrell Brown.
You're an angel in disguise. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it, no. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it, no. Da 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 da. Love to run my fingers softly while you sigh. Love came and possessed you. Up to your eyes, like a trip to heaven. Heaven is the prize, and I can't help but love you. It's getting better all the time. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it, no. Can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to. Wouldn't help it, no. Give it up for this amazing man. I know y'all can do better than that. Give it up for this amazing man. Come on, baby.
It's just what you want. I'ma do what I can. The definition of man is just